And we welcome you to a live edition of Believe in Giants, presented by FanDuel. Bob Papa, two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. So if you want to know what went wrong in the game against Chicago, check out the podcast we recorded earlier today as we talk about the ills and the anatomy of how to blow another two-score lead in the fourth quarter. But not long thereafter recording our podcast, Carl, the news broke that Brian Daboll was being relieved of his duties as the head coach of the New York Giants. Daboll was 20, 40, and 1 in the regular season as head coach, and obviously 1-1 in the postseason. And Carl, I was a little surprised that the news broke today, especially in the afternoon. I thought maybe it would happen early in the morning, but didn't. It's just I find it interesting, but the Giants have elected to move on. In the statement, they said, we feel there is more than enough young talent, I'm paraphrasing, to have the results that we've had the last couple of years, including this year. And they're going to move forward with Mike Kafka being the interim head coach of the Giants. In the statement, it says that Joe Schoen will remain as general manager and be part of the search for a new head coach. Now, I know there's a lot of fans that are up in arms about that. I'll just say this. Everything is subject to change when you're making a change at head coach and your team has 2 wins through 10 games. So we'll see what happens. Your reaction to our guy Dabe's getting canned today?
Well, listen, we discussed it on the podcast that that was going to be heading, changes were heading that way, and that you cannot separate one part of the team from the other. If you're the head coach, it all ends up at your podium, at those press conferences, and you have to answer for the entire team. So the fact that the offense showed improvement and the defense went backwards, that's his defense. That's no one else's defense. The fact that the kickers have cost you games, that's Dave's kickers. So it's unfortunate. Obviously, I personally like him, and I think he's a very smart coach. But when you're the head coach, everything comes to you. It's a results-oriented business. And unfortunately, the results are, they speak for themselves. I still think there's work that has to be done. I don't know what other changes are happening on the staff, and I guess we'll find that out in the next couple of days. But the mandate is still to win football games, Bob. They didn't give Mike Kafka the job and say, okay, become the daycare owner, and just don't mess anything up. But whatever happens. No, he's got to win. It's his resume too. It's the rest of those guys' resume. They've got good coaches on this staff, like I said earlier this morning, that are going to lose jobs as a result of some areas that are bad on this team.
Yeah, I was surprised that Shane Bowen wasn't part of it. I mean, sometimes you see like head coach gets fired in season and the special teams coordinator gets fired or somebody else gets fired, an O-line coach or whatever. Now, again, we are not privy to the inside information or the inside what the discussions were. I don't know. Maybe there'll be changes tomorrow morning when we're in there to tape our TV shows because maybe, listen, I'm just guessing. Maybe they said, hey, Mike, you're taking over. He's got to gather his thoughts. He's got to now figure out what's going to happen. He's going to continue to call plays, but there is a different chain in command. Now, the ball is all in his court. Maybe he's going to sleep on what he wants to do as far as making changes to his staff. Who's to say that tomorrow morning when we walk into the building at 7 a.m. or 7:15, whenever we're going to get there, that we might not find out that there's been another change that's made. Because I would think if you're going to fire the head coach and you're going to say, Mike, this is your ball to run with, and you have a living, breathing now body of work of a resume for you to have moving forward as an interim head coach, I highly doubt that they're going to go into this and say, but you can't do this. Right.
Right. Right.
So I think this story is not completely written.
Yeah. As far as changes on the defensive side of the ball, I don't know. I can't speculate other than, hey, is there anybody else on the staff that can call a defense? Is there anybody else on the staff that can coordinate a defense? And I don't have the answer to that. Well, I do. Marquand Manuel can coordinate a defense. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know this. The defense has not been good. And when you look at both sides of the football, I would say the defense contributed a great deal to how this season is right now. And so the buck stopped at the head coach because he's the head coach of the defense, the head coach of the offense, the head coach of the special teams. They never got the defense fixed. I'm sure, Mike Kafka, if you want to put something on your resume, you got to get the defense fixed. There's 6 games left. Figure it out. Like, you can't walk in the building saying, well, I'm just here to oversee. You got a resume. You're auditioning for this job and many others. You've been, one of the finalists or semifinalists for several positions. You're showing what you can do. Now you're going to have to show what you can do with another quarterback probably this week. But, you can't afford to fall off. And, your job now is to make sure the doggone defense gets its act together. It's the number one priority right now. The offense makes adjustments. They do things. The defense doesn't. And you can't let that be the anchor, that's dragging you back. You got to get these guys going some kind of way. And that's not just players, folks. I'm talking coaching too, because if you listen to the podcast from this morning, they don't do math very well in their schematics. And they need to start changing the math for what offenses are looking at.
Greg, thanks for the nice comments. We got some live comments in here.
Nice.
Glad that you have enjoyed our broadcasts over the years. Look, again, I think everything's fluid. They announced that Joe Schoen will remain the general manager and he will lead the search for a new head coach. Look, I think all bets are off on everything at this point. Mm-hmm. And the owners have the right to reserve and change their mind if they need be, depending on how the season goes. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen, but I wonder if there's going to be some changes on this staff still that Kafka is going to be able to institute. We'll talk about, we talked about that already.
Well, there are also people, Bob, that may not want to work for Kafka, that, work for Daboll. And so that's always a consideration.
Yeah, but I think these guys are going to want to make sure that no one's resigning. They want to get paid. They've endured this. Yes. They want to make sure they get paid for the rest of the year, regardless.
Yes.
Look, as far as Jaxson Dart, I think it's going to be highly unlikely that he plays this week in the concussion protocol. It'll be interesting to see what they do if Dart's not going to play. And listen, we already know that Jaxson Dart potentially is the future of this franchise, right? We have seen enough in a body of work from Jaxson Dart to feel pretty confident that the Giants got a winner. Now it's about developing him moving forward, and that will obviously take time. And you want to get him back in the lineup at some point just to let him continue the learning process, right? Because they do have a more competent offensive line than they've had in the past. And as long as Andrew Thomas is healthy, it gives you a fighting chance.
Right.
As far as
hold on one second. JC says that Dart has been hit 77 times. That's not a whole lot. I mean, that's running, that's in the pocket. It's 10 times a game. He gets hit 10 times a game. I would say that Yesterday, Caleb Williams was in contact with defenders at least 15 times that game. So, I mean, when you run, you get hit, but not all of these are just clean shots on your quarterback. And here's what I'll say, JC, as it relates to Jaxson Dart. He is not a run-first quarterback. He is a pass-first quarterback, as you can see the way he throws the football. But he is a quarterback who's not small. He's got to learn to make better decisions when he's running. But I don't worry about the fact that he runs. I worry about his decision-making at times.
Correct. And look, I said this to you in the Philadelphia game. I was like, Carl, why is Jaxson Dart still in the game? The game is out of reach at this point. Get him out. And then they called some design runs for him. Like, those are the kind of things that piss you off. And I would be pissed off if I was a fan, and I'd be concerned if I was probably in the ownership group. Like, what are we doing here to put up some yards? Yeah. Yesterday, though, as we said in the podcast that we recorded earlier, there was only really 4 design runs. And the play that he got hurt on, I mean, it's not like he took a big shot. It's football, but he has to. And maybe this is a part of the learning experience for him. He has to not do what he did against San Francisco as he's running down the left sideline on his way out of bounds and decide, you know what, I'm going to truck this guy on my way out of bounds. Because cumulatively, that stuff is going to add up. And that is something that you can't have. Carl, I'm interested to see what they're going to do. As far as this game this weekend, if Dart can't play, I would go Jameis Winston. I would take a look at Jameis Winston. I said this on the other podcast, how they used him with Sean Payton in New Orleans when he played his most efficient, mistake-free football, and craft a game plan around that.
Yeah, and this is something that we're going to find out right away about Mike Kafka. He can't be, okay, I can't run my offense because Jaxson Dart's not in there. You've got to have an offense that's suited for the skill set of Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson or both. They've got to have something that they can run, and the offense has to get on the same page. Now, we've seen that they can make adjustments in the game, but they've yet to make an adjustment without Jaxson Dart. Now we're going to find out, can you put an offense together that suits the skill set of the quarterback and still have production the way that you want it in your offense?
I know everybody really wants to see Jameis Winston play, right? He's great on social media. He's become this unbelievable, larger-than-life character. But he's 36 and 51 as a quarterback. He ain't walking through the door, right? Your best chance to win is when Jaxson Dart's playing and he's healthy, right?
Yeah.
But I think after what we saw with Russell Wilson at the end of that game, when you're in a gotta-have-it moment, down 4, you have to score a touchdown here. It just looked very scared. It looked like as soon as he took the snap and there was any kind of pressure, he's just looking. And you're going to be, Micah Parsons is coming to town. Rashawn Gary's going to be coming to town. Like, you might as well me personally, I think you might as well just put Jameis in there if Dart's not going to play and just say, all right, let's see what we can do here.
Here's the other dynamic of team, Bob. One area of the team has to be able to pick up the slack for the other. And we don't see that as complementary. Your defense has a say-so also. When you got a man down on one side of the ball, sometimes you got to be able to pick up the slack defensively. And that means not dropping 2 interceptions, Cordell. One was a gift. The other one was a little bit more on you. But you got to be able to make plays. You got to be more disruptive, more efficient defensively, and find a way to play something on your terms. You got too much talent to not be able to play a scheme that's on your terms. And, you're down a key man on offense. but they still got some things they can do. But defense, you gotta shoulder a little bit of this as well.
Right. Because, well, listen, guys are playing for their jobs now. Because once there's a change.
Listen, man,
Yeah.
they've been playing for their jobs at two and
Yeah.
whatever. You've been playing for your job for a long time. I don't know if you got the memo, but I'm sure the memo hit different now that Coach Daboll has been relieved of his duties. Like, yeah, you can't fire the players, right? But the players have contracts and they have salaries that are paid commensurate to their skill set. You can demand that they play to that level, and you got to coach them that way. But every coach on the staff, the memo hit different today. If you didn't know that you were, coaching for your job, you kind of know now. And this record has got to improve if you want to have a chance to maintain, your job at the Giants or anywhere else. But the best this offensive line has looked in a long time, and it's going to be unfortunate if one of those coaches or both of those coaches are relieved of their job, because they're doing a heck of a job. They've turned this offensive line around, and there are a lot of other areas. Wide receivers have stepped up. As inconsistent as some can be, they didn't just completely fall off the face of the earth. Jaxson Dart is still putting up numbers, and he's throwing it to somebody. So, I root for these guys to have success, because, there are some areas of improvement. The areas that I want to see more improvement from or more progress from is on the other side of the ball. But look, they got to get it together, because they're going to cost each other jobs.
Trey commented, and I want to get to his comment, because he says, I don't like getting rid of the head coach while retaining the general manager. It's never worked out for the Giants. Trey, it's a legitimate concern if you're a fan. I'll take you back to 1992. Ray Hanley let go. George Young, the general manager. George was not necessary. George went and tried to get a couple of people, swung and missed. And Dan Reeves winds up coming in as the head coach, right? And there was an uneasy relationship between those two. Didn't pan out. Let's go to Tom Coughlin being relieved of his duties, but Jerry Reese and Mark Ross remained. In steps Ben McAdoo. That whole scenario kind of didn't work out. Then you bring in Dave Gettleman. He brings in Pat Shurmur. Shurmur gets fired. Joe Judge gets hired. That didn't work out with those guys. So I can understand why, if you're a Giant fan right now, you are very concerned about this scenario, right? That they came in joined at the hip, but they're not leaving joined at the hip. And again, it's November the 10th. We have no idea what the final decision is going to be. But for Giants fans to be concerned about some of that stuff, I could understand why, because there's a track record of some of it that hasn't been so good.
Understandable. I just happen to think Joe Schoen is going to do a good job. He's going to continue to build on what he's started. And I don't think he is blindly loyal. I think he believes in the process. I think he has a strong process that he wants. And listen, just get yourself a coach and a staff that are competent and can develop players. Like, the head coach is one thing. You need to find out from the head coach, what do you have on staff, right? What is your staff going to look like? Because we keep investing in players and in high draft choices, and we watch them flounder. We watch them go backward, right? Tay Banks is a shell of what he was his rookie year. Why? Why is that? How can he go from that to nothing, right? To being a liability? And if I'm Joe Schoen, I got to tell Joe Schoen, go find some linebackers. Stop experimenting. Find some guys who can actually play. They don't all have to be high round draft choices, but you got to spend some time in that area. You do a good job of finding wide receivers, defensive linemen. You found 2 good defensive backs that, by the way, have stalemated in Nubin and Drew Phillips. I think they were on the ascend last year, and now they've just either stalemated or gone backwards. Go find yourself a couple linebackers, right? Darius Muasau is great filling in, but listen, they know how to find linebackers because they found Micah McFadden. Find 2 more of those. Find 2 more Micah McFadden so that you can build some depth. Micah wasn't even a high draft round selection, but he's one of their most productive defensive players. Go find those guys.
Well, I hear people saying like, well, do they have anybody on the staff that could take over as a defensive coordinator? And my theory on that is that should not cause you to not make a move, because the defense has been a major part of the problem. Give some young guy who's never been a coordinator, who's chomping at the bit to take a shot at it. How much worse could it be at this point, right?
It could be worse.
Well, it could be. Yeah, it could be.
But I know Marquand Manuel, if they're doing that, Marquand Manuel has coordinated the defense when he was in Atlanta, I believe. It's going to be what it's going to be, folks. But, and I know a lot of people are going to tune out from this point on in terms of watching games and attending games. But the mandate, as long as those guys get a uniform, they got to go out there and try to win. If you're coaching them, you got to coach them to win, because you're coaching like your job depends on it. Your employment depends on it. And there are going to be a lot of owners, a lot of general managers around the league that are looking at how positions are performing, anticipating, hey, there could be a good offensive line coach coming loose, or there could be a good tight ends coach coming loose. Look at how they're developing. And then on the other side of the ball, you guys got to audition to say, hey, look, my position group is doing well. Because if you lose this opportunity with the Giants, people are looking to see how your position groups are performing, and you got to answer for that.
Yeah, I mean, the new head coach, whoever that's going to be moving forward, is going to come in, and they're going to tell you if all this young talent is really talent, or if it's not talent, or if it's a mirage. Look, listen, I've said this, and I said this time and time again, and I said it on Sirius. I'm going to give you my opinion. And I did this exercise with my son. And the Giants, after these last 10 years, other than the playoff appearance in 16 and the one and done, and the playoff appearance in 22 and 1 win, 1 loss, I think the franchise is in a crisis moment where they can't roll the dice with another hot prospect. I think they need to turn to somebody that's been there, done it, know-how. Okay? This can't be. First of all, there's a lot of things that come with it, right? It's in New York, it's different. The media scrutiny, everything, it's different than if you're taking the job with the Tennessee Titans or the Jacksonville Jaguars or some of these other markets. This is different. Okay? I think you got to bring somebody in that has a resume that you lay it out on the table and say, okay. So I did this exercise with my son, and I asked him, do you think Mike Tomlin's a Hall of Famer? And he said, yes, my son will. And we went through I made him go to Pro Football Reference, look up his resume. I said, do you think Sean Payton's going to go to the Hall of Fame? Yes. Go to Pro Football Reference, look up his resume. I just think John Harbaugh, is he a Hall of Famer? Go to Pro Football Reference, look up his resume. Now, all these guys have had the same body of work. They've had Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Roethlisberger, Breeze, Flacco, borderline, Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP. Guess what? they've all won between 62.5 and 65% of their regular season games, between 174 and they have the same exact win-loss percentage. And you know what also they all have? The same postseason record. Lots of appearances, 500. And all three of those guys each won one Super Bowl. Tomlin's the only one that's been to two. Ironically, the one that he lost is the guy that I say the Giants should seriously consider moving forward, Mike McCarthy. So now everybody's – and my son's like, oh, no. All I can think about is him blowing games and all this other stuff. And I said, maybe you're right about situational coaching in big spots. I said, but I do know one thing. Over 18 years, he wins 63% of his games, or 62%. He's got 174 wins. He's got 22 playoff appearances. And he's won one Super Bowl. And by the way, he beat Tomlin in that one Super Bowl. And he, too, Hall of Fame quarterback. And I'm like, he can walk in the door, and he's got a resume. He knows what winning games looks like in the NFL because he's done it over 18 years. And as far as dealing with pressure, he dealt with the Dallas market and working for Jerry Jones. I think he can handle New York.
Here's my question there is, can he still tap the coaches that he need to join his staff? It's all about your staff right now. In New York, James Wilson says, where's it at? He says that Joe Schoen picked Evan Neal, Jalen Hyatt, JMS, and Tyler Nubin. Okay. So JMS has gotten better, and he's turned himself into a pretty decent center. Tyler Nubin, we did not have these concerns his rookie year. Jalen Hyatt has just not touched the field. Why? We don't know. He gets a uniform and they don't play him. Maybe that changes with Kafka and we see something different. But Jalen Hyatt, when he first got here and they throwing him in the ball, nobody had a problem. They thought he was a pretty good pick. So I'm not other than Evan Neal, who we saw struggle and not get better, and he's changed positions now. Those other guys we've seen progress from. So I'm not sure how that's a knock on Joe Schoen, those players. I think if anything, those players have gone backwards with the exception of John Michael Schmitz. He's gotten better and better. And he's got better coaching, and that's probably why. But Hyatt, we've seen he can play. He just doesn't play, right? Evan Neal is the one we've seen struggle, and we don't know what he is as a guard, and we probably won't find out. Tyler Nubin was an ascending player, and he's gone backwards. Drew Phillips, same thing, developing bad habits, never developed the next phase of their careers as rookies to second-year sophomore players. They didn't develop, and that's, you got to look at who's developing them there. So I don't have a problem with Nubin, Phillips, or Hyatt as picks, or JMS as picks, because obviously when everybody was saying he was trash, nobody's saying that anymore. All of those people are quiet all of a sudden because you're not hearing his name. That means he's playing well.
Well,
so go ahead.
No, there's two ways to look at it. He's playing better than he has been playing.
Mm-hmm.
But you drafted him where you drafted him to be a stud, right?
And where is he now? And what year is this for him?
This is what, year 3?
Year 3.
Listen, we could agree to disagree on some of this as far as I throw Evan Neal out the window, right? And what I mean by that is every single team, every single draft evaluator, every guy on ESPN and Fox and everywhere else, all these guys that scout college, everybody had the guy as a top 10 pick.
Yep.
It turns out he's not. Like, I can't blame the Giants for getting that one wrong because everyone was going to get that wrong. If the Giants didn't take him, somebody else was going to take him in the top 10.
Right. And picking players are not an exact science, which is proven through Evan Neal. But when you see guys, even Deontay Banks, take a look at after his rookie year, we were all sitting here saying, boy, they got somebody who's physical, who's big, who can tackle, and he's only going to get better. He's only gotten worse, right? Drew Phillips and Tyler Nubin came in. They replaced two guys, and you're like, oh, boy, they got fresh talent. These guys are physical. They can play. You look at Drew Phillips and just take one look at the Washington game. He showed up and showed out, and you're like, oh, they got him. They got themselves one. This year, he looks totally different. Nubin looks totally different. So it's not a matter of, just like when whatever the statement said that they think they have ample enough talent to be better than their record shows, I say that about the defense every week. If you guys have heard me, I sound like a broken record. They got too much talent to be this bad. And I see guys that are not developing, and in the simple areas of the game, they're not developing. And so you can blame the general manager for that because I guess the general manager hires the coaches, but the talent acquisition, I don't think they've missed on those guys. These guys aren't developed.
The coach hired the coaches. The coach put the staff together. Look,
so they're not developing the talent that they've been given.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, Carl, the coaching staff has taken the hit, right? Because the head coach got fired, and the coaches there's going to be a new head coach here next year. So basically, we're saying that it was poor coaching overall that has led to this.
That's fair.
We're gonna find out when a new head coach comes here. They may say, "Ooh," just like when this group came in, they were like, "Ooh, there's some talent here. Xavier McKinney, Julian Love, like Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, like, ooh, Saquon Barkley. There's some talent here." And they went to the playoffs.
Yep.
A new staff may come in and say, you know what? There is talent here. And they're going to develop them to become better players. Just like Vrabel and Josh McDaniels did. They went to New England, and there was core talent there. And that team is now seeing the development of some of that young talent playing better and better. So right now, right now the finger is on the coaching as to why this team is 2-8. Because let's face it, you see some bad football being played, and you see some teams. There is no way this Giants team, for a myriad of reasons, should be 2-8. If this Giant team was 4-6 right now, and you say, okay, they blew the Dallas game, but you know what? They didn't blow Chicago and Denver. You'd feel like, okay, we're kind of on schedule. I mean, you can go pie in the sky and say they could easily be 5-5, but New Orleans was a lot of self-inflicted by their own players turning the ball over.
Right.
But I think if they're 4-6 right now, you sit there and you say, okay, but there's no reason for this team to be 2-8. Bottom line.
No, but here's the other part too, Bob, is that whoever comes in, they've evaluated these players too. They've had to go through a draft unless they're first-time assistant coaches and coordinators. They've looked at some of these same players that the Giants have drafted on their board. So they know if there's a level of talent there. And they've also seen these kids from freshman year to sophomore year, if you will. And you have to ask yourself, why are they going backward? But, you want to look at what Shane has done. Take a look at Darius Alexander, right? Take a look at the acquisition of Roy Robinson Harris and what he contributes, right? Take a look at Daniel Bellinger. Take a look at all of the tight ends because they're all Joe Schoen's picks, right? They're contributing. It's just not the first rounders, which he's hit on Neighbors. He's hit on Scatterboo. He's hit on the quarterback. I keep saying the quarterback on Jaxson Dart. So he's got a hit. He's got a good record of hits.
I mean, it looks like he hit on Scatterboo as a 4th-round pick.
Right. So yeah, I mean, so there's a track record of hits.
Tracy turned out to be a decent.
Tyrone Tracy.
I don't know what Tyrone Tracy's going to be career like. I don't think he's going to be a Pro Bowl running back. But he was a productive player last year, and he is a productive player. So and you take a guy in the 5th round, Scatterboo you got in the 4th round. So you have to look at those things as net positive. Yeah, Micah McFadden was a late pick as well.
Yeah, so I mean their process of evaluating is not as flawed as people think it is. Like you can point to the misses, but then you start going through the list of hits. He's got 3 tight ends that are all contributing in major parts of the team. You hit on your top picks, but then you got a Micah McFadden who all of a sudden people thought he couldn't play. Now you miss him, right? Because he was so productive. Banks was on his way.
Well, look, I think as we're defending or as we're talking about these players, I think the bottom line is this. Organizationally, they made a decision that the team was not being coached well enough to win more games, right? The 2-7 start in 3 straight years. Last year, 2-7 started to 2-14. They're now at 2-8 this year. I guess the big question that I have as of us being live right now is either why didn't Daboll make a decision on Shane Bowen earlier? Could that have maybe saved him? I don't know. There was a lot of chatter about that.
Well, in the offseason, there was an opportunity for him to move in a different direction. And he decided to stay with Shane Bowen. Now, listen, Bob, as long as these guys are coaching, I'm rooting for their success, right? So I'm hoping that they get it together. And they got 6. Oh, and someone just said, Greg Tuthaller said Tibbs is a hit too. Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau is a hit. But I'm going to always root for them to have success. Right now, we can only call what we see, and it's not very good. But that doesn't mean I'm not rooting for them to get better because they have the talent to be better.
Hey, look, and you get at the end of the day with all this too, I mean, the 20-40-1 record is, to quote Parcells, it is what it is. But I will say this. Dave saw something that he really liked in Jaxson Dart, and maybe the end result of this, and Joe Schoen made the appropriate trade to move up. And hopefully for everybody that's watching this, that's a Giant fan, and for me and you, let's hope that that's the positive that comes out of all this is that they got a quarterback, because it certainly feels like they do.
Yeah. And, and for Brian Daboll, he can say, you can thank me later for that one. But you got a leader, that's for sure, in Jaxson Dart. And, just got to make sure he uses discretion and not be reckless, because he's not playing against Vanderbilt every week. He's playing against real grown men, and he's finding out that, Vanderbilt's best players is some team's worst player in the NFL. And they hit hard. And, they need you. You're a bigger asset standing upright than sitting out in protocol.
Well, we're going to find out, when a new head coach comes in, whoever that will be, because that guy's going to have some run as far as the roster is concerned.
Yeah.
And we'll know by what that guy thinks of who stays and who goes. Because that guy's going to have it's going to have a wide berth. So, all right, look, again, I saw a comment earlier, like, why are you feeling sad? Look, we deal with these guys on a regular basis, constantly dealing with them. And you and I both will text back and forth with Dave's. I texted him before. He's got a young kid, right? His son is what, 9, 8, and listen, they all know this going in. It's part of the trade.
It's
they
the
all
business.
know that.
Yeah.
It's the business, but still, people get fired from their jobs all the time. It's just, this is very public, and we can only go by the way he treated you and me personally. So I'm sorry that it didn't work out, because I really liked him personally, but business is business, and the record is what it is. And the Giants decided it was time to make a change.
It's result-oriented business. And for more insight on what we're talking about here, guys, we encourage you to log on to our latest podcast, because we talk a lot more in detail about this defense, why I think they don't have success. And it's schematic and it's player, but when I talk about they have a math issue, and you guys should listen to this, because when a team is so vanilla like the Giants, there has to be a trust issue somewhere in your personnel. And then when you're so vanilla and you are so predictable, meaning you're either going to rush 4, whether it looks like you're rushing 5 and you're going to drop Burns out or drop Thibodeau out, and you just replace them as the 4th guy in the rush, you don't change the math for offensive lines. You change the math when you bring more than they count. And the Giants don't do that for whatever reason. I don't know if they're afraid of getting beat from behind in their defensive backfield, but when you change the math for an offense, it also speeds up the process. And you've seen enough of Caleb Williams to know that if you speed his process up, he gets a bit reckless. But if you can cage him, some of those missed sacks become sacks because you've got 5, 6 guys instead of 4. But listen to the podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yeah, and just I got to comment on this one thing with Trisquari. I think it was Trisquari who put this in here. Something about
the DC.
Something about Wink. Look, Wink could have stayed. Daboll wanted to make a change with the linebackers coaches, and Wink said absolutely not. And Dave said, yeah, those guys got to go. They're a little too chatty. All the behind the scenes stuff that was being leaked into the media. Wink was not told to leave. Wink decided to leave. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave said, and you could stay, but you could stay, but the other, the 2 guys chatting got to go.
Yeah. And for, Wink is I call him the wizard. He's one of my favorite defensive coordinators. But, when you guys start comparing, Wink's defense had its flaws too. They gave up a ton of yards also. But you like him because he was aggressive. And I like aggressive defensive coordinators as well. But they had some flaws also. But you know what he did? He got Deonte Banks going. He got Drew Phillips going. He got Tyler Nubin going, playing aggressive, attacking the line of scrimmage. And that's
he didn't have Nubin. He didn't have Nubin.
Oh, Nubin wasn't there. You're right.
No, Nubin
Tay Banks was there.
Tay Banks.
Right. Tay Banks was there.
Yeah. I mean, Wink was good. He was fun to be around. He was swashbuckler, all that other stuff. But yeah, it's not. I mean, sometimes I think Giant fans too want to put him in the categories if he was Belichick, the defensive coordinator, or Spags, the defensive coordinator, or Perry Fuel, the defensive. Let's pump the brakes, because the reason why Baltimore parted ways too. Enjoyed being around him. But whatever the case is, that's water under the bridge. It doesn't matter at this point.
Right. Yep.
Well, we'll see what happens, Carl. Tell a friend.
Hey, man, tell a friend to tell a friend. But I would say to you guys, I don't do this, right? But I'm gonna continue to support this staff, even if they're interim. If anything should change, I'm not going to talk about a head coach position, but any head coach who takes this, including Mike Kafka, Matt Patricia is one hell of a defensive coach. Just put that name in the back of put that feather in your cap and just hold on to it. If there's an opening at the NFL level, so people like Patrick Graham and all these other guys, Matt Patricia, what he's doing at Ohio State, there's no coincidence.
There's gonna be an opening. The new head coach, whoever that is probably not retaining many people on these.
Whoever that new head coach is, Matt Patricia is a name, and I'll guarantee you this much. If you set Matt Patricia down on a couch, he could tell you man for man how he would develop every position. He would go by every player. He could look at this team right now and tell you how he would incorporate Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Brian Burns on a down-for-down basis. He would articulate that to you, and he would probably give you 5 different schematics of how they would work together and have success and be disruptive. I'm just saying. He will tell you how he would use Dexter like Vince Wilfork or Richard Seymour. He would use Roy Robinson Harris and Darius Alexander, like those guys. He will talk defense to you. He won't talk theory. He will not talk to you about analytics. He will tell you as the game changes, this is what he would do. If this happened, this is what he would do. You could show him every toss crack that's hurt this defense with this exact same personnel. He will tell you how he would stop it. But Matt Patricia might be happy when he wins the national championship with Ohio State Buckeyes and stay there. But that's a name. If that name is out there and you want a good defensive coordinator, something that's in the vein of Spags, Belichick, Perry Fuel, you want somebody like that? Matt Patricia knows how to bring numbers. He knows defensive math. He teaches his players defensive math, and he won't be easy. He won't be easy to figure out. So I just threw that name out there. That's as far as I'll ever go talking about coaches who already have jobs. But you know there's a change coming on defense. So, and until it does, I'm rooting for these guys to do well. But
there's a change coming with the head coach. Oh, it's going to be a change with the head coach. All the stuff
putting
with
it out there early.
All the stuff it's not happening. There's a myriad of reasons it's not happening. Okay, Belichick is not coming back to the Giants.
He is not.
There's been a lot of water under the bridge, so to speak, over the last couple of years. Belichick's not going to be the next head coach of the Giants.
I gave you my thought drum for Matt Patricia.
I gave you my thought on who I think the right man for the job is. I know a lot of people want Gruden, 500 coach. Okay, he's a 500 coach. Give me somebody in here who's going to win. I love Gruden, but he's got the suit with the league, all that other stuff. I think McCarthy would be. He's got a resume that he could just lay down there, and what are you gonna dispute? The 175 wins over the course of his career, winning 62% of his games over not 62% over 5 years, 62% over 18 years.
Yeah.
So
I'll take him in a heartbeat, but I don't talk that. I am just talking defensive coordinator right now, and y'all should get excited about the name Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia, folks.
It can't be. This cannot be a starter job.
No,
the next guy's. Folks. Well, you're talking DC. I'm talking about the head coach. It can't be a starter job for the next head coach.
Well, here's the thing. No, it can't be. But you also can't have a starter job for a defensive coordinator. You got to have a guy who understands personnel, how to use personnel, how to deploy personnel, and how to develop. He's been in that. He's done that. He's doing it currently. That's why Ohio State's one of the top defenses in the country. When in a college environment now where everybody's scoring 50 points, 48 points a game.
All right.
So I hear you.
Right.
I know. I get it. I get
as
it.
a
That's my
DC,
only contribution
but
here.
see, you got fans here watching this thing, and you're pushing him as the head coach.
No, I'm
the next
pushing
head
him
coach.
as the defensive coordinator is what I'm pushing
Okay.
him as.
Right. Stay in the lane. Stay in the
I'm in
lane.
that
We
lane.
want him to do what he does best because we saw him as an OC. That was a little bizarre. All right, Carl. Again, we encourage everybody to go to the Believe in Giants podcast we recorded earlier today for a breakdown of everything that went wrong and how the Giants were wound up losing that game yesterday. And this was kind of a look at the news that broke today. We appreciate you all jumping in on this, and make sure you tell a friend.
Tell a friend. Believe in
Giants.
Giants.